You couldn't go anywhere in the late 1990s without hearing someone quote a Mike Myers film. The actor and his comedic characters were everywhere, whether it was Austin Powers, Dr. Evil, or Wayne Campbell. In the mid-1990s, the Canadian actor made the transition from Saturday Night Live to film scoring hits with Wayne's World and the Austin Powers series. In the early 2000s, he continued to rise as the voice of the ogre Shrek in Shrek. Myers' star power gradually faded. Myers almost vanished from public life after a few critical bombs, cameo appearances, and lawsuits. Today would like to review his career, a few projects in more detail. Myers began appearing in commercials as early as the age of 2. When he was 10 years old, he starred in a commercial for British Columbia Hydro alongside Gilda Radner. After graduating from high school, he joined the Second City Canadian Touring Company. Mike Myers joined the cast of Saturday Night in 1989, and with his arrival, he brought with him a host of characters. One of those characters, Wayne Campbell from Wayne's World fame, actually made his initial appearance a couple of years earlier on the TV show It's Only Rock and Roll. Thankfully, Myers brought Wayne to SNL because, along with comedian Dana Carvey, the two created two of the most popular characters to ever grace the small and big screens, Wayne and Garth. This project gave the cinema many famous names like Eddie Murphy, Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, Adam Sandler, and many others. Myers was no exception. One of his characters in the 90s decided to make a movie for the box office. That film was Wayne's World. It is believed that Mike Myers contributed to the resurgence of the Queen band in America. The studio did not want the band's songs in the movie because Queens weren't needed in the States at the time. They were no longer needed in the States. They didn't even tour the America because they couldn't get enough of an audience. But Myers was up against Guns N' Roses, which the producers were pushing, and insisted on Bohemian Rhapsody. After much debate, they made concessions, and Queen returned to all the American charts after the film's premiere. Myers got a whole $1 million for his participation. It was a huge fee these days for a big screen debut. The film was released in 1992 and grossed $183 million in theaters on a budget of $20 million. This allowed the film to hit the top 10 for the year in the United States. The film topped the top 10 for 6 weeks in a row. The studio immediately ordered a sequel, and the film was ready a year later. According to the same Myers, led to the failure, the fact that the project tried to do as quickly as possible. The script was poorly written and not finalized. Therefore, the sequel strongly surrendered, which affected its box office. It cost $40 million at the box office and took only $48 million. The actor has already received $4 million. The same year, failed another comedy, So I Married an Axe Murderer. $20 million picture took at the box office, only $11 million. This forced Myers to leave the cinema for 4 whole years. He wanted to find a project he could turn around, and most importantly, that project interested him. And he came back in 1997 with the legendary Austin Powers. 2 years before that, the mega-successful GoldenEye was released, grossing $348 million at the cinemas. Myers saw this as an opportunity and decided that if he added humor and idiocy to a special agent film, he could be a success. Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery wasn't a big hit at the box office, but it made money. With a budget of $16.5 million, the film managed to gross $67 million. And in general, the studio was not sure whether to shoot a second part. But that all changed with the video release, where the film was a real hit. And the studio commissioned Myers to write a new script for the sequel. While Mike was writing the script, he managed to star in several films. The most famous was 54 and Mystery Alaska, but both of these projects failed at the box office. For the sequel Austin Powers, Mike has received $7 million. The studio spent $33 million on the film and another $40 million on advertising. Heather Graham, who in the sequel came to replace Elizabeth Hurley, believes that the movie generally saved her career. She had no offers, and the only roles offered were movies with erotic content. And although she had a career in the future, was not very successful. Still, she did not have to go to the film for adults. At the box office, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, grossed $310 million, making it one of the year's biggest hits. It is the movie that has been blamed for the death of the Bond movies with Pierce Brosnan. Daniel Craig claims that Austin Powers dealt a powerful blow to Bondiana, and the producers thought that another film with Brosnan might fail altogether. And according to Craig Austin, Powers is the main culprit behind the decision to make Bondi in a more serious, like Jason Bourne. They just didn't have any other option. Since Mike Myers' popularity in the United States was enormous, DreamWorks Studios invited him to participate in the new Shrek project. Myers was to voice the main character. The fee he received was $3 million. The same amount was received by Cameron Diaz and Eddie Murphy. With a budget of $60 million in cinemas, Shrek grossed $484 million. And this project will be a major hit at DreamWorks Studios for many years. For the voice of the second part of Shrek, he received $10 million. But the third part of Austin Powers brought the actor the most significant fee of $25 million. The total production budget picture was $63 million. Due to the popularity of the previous part and the occasional appearance in this film, many Hollywood stars have agreed. One of the roles was even offered to Sean Connery, for which the producers were willing to increase the film's budget by $10 million. But he would not even read the script. So some of the film's ideas had to be abandoned. This was the first Austin Powers film that suffered in post-production. Director Jay Roach says that the first version of the picture ran for over 3 hours. But after test screenings, the studio demanded a shorter running time. As a result, the film was cut to 94 minutes. Several characters are missing from the film. The $63 million film grossed $296 million at the box office. It was still a great success, albeit considerably less than the second film. The main problem was the sagging ratings from regular audiences. Because of this, the fourth part of For Austin Powers never came to fruition. Mike Myers said he would only return to the part if he was delighted with the script, which apparently hasn't happened yet. If you take into account the fact that the actor every year is not getting younger, the return Austin after all may not take place. After Austin Powers, the actor continued to star in supporting roles. You could see him in the comedy View from the Top with Gwyneth Paltrow. And at this time, he was preparing his new big movie. And many people think that in the film The Cat in the Hat, Mike Myers starred to repeat the success of Jim Carrey with the movie How the Grinch Stole Christmas. In that film, Myers didn't want to do that movie and had another project with Universal Studios in mind. Universal wanted to repeat the success of Wayne's World, but this time with a different take on the character Myers from Saturday Night Live. In the pre-production phase of the picture, had already spent more than $10 million. When Mike suddenly started refusing to star, the money was spent constantly rewriting the script that did not satisfy Myers. In the end, the studio decided to close the project and went to court, demanding $20 million for the costs they incurred from the actor. As is almost always the case in these situations, there was no trial, and the parties agreed. Myers was supposed to star in a movie that the studio would choose, and the studio chose The Cat in the Hat. Filming this film was accompanied by a constant scandal, and a lot of press coverage was written about how badly Myers behaved on the set. At that time this whole situation was not known, so Myers was made an outcast. On the stage, he ignored the whole crew, didn't talk to anybody, and was absent from all rehearsals. Myers only spoke to the director of the movie, who made an exception, which is director Bo Welch. For Bo, the film was his debut, but they also had conflicts during filming. The actor felt that the scene needed for the stage. Even though Welch was against it, they did the takes anyway. This resulted in a budget overrun that reached a whopping $109 million. And when it was shown to the widow of Dr. Seuss, whose book was the basis for the movie, she immediately banned all future adaptations of her husband's books. In America, The Cat in the Hat collected $101 million at the box office. The rest of the world collected another $32 million. But it was a resounding failure. Audiences didn't like the film, and ratings for it were at rock bottom. Universal Studios lost about $150 million and the film received many Golden Raspberry nominations. And Mike Myers was voted the worst actor of the year. After this fiasco, Mike left the cinema again, this time for 5 years, voicing only the character of Shrek. And Myers returned to the big movies with The Love Guru. The film was initially planned as a sequel to Austin Powers. It was supposed to be Mike Myers was also supposed to play him. It was supposed to be some kind of love expert who taught Austin. But it was continually abandoned, postponing it indefinitely. The outcome was sad. Mike Myers hoped for a triumphant return, but it was a resounding failure. The film killed Mike's career as a big star and at the same time, sent Jessica Alba off to do B movies. The Love Guru managed to gross only $41 million in theaters. And here, Mike had already won 2 Golden Raspberries for Worst Screenplay and Worst Actor. In 2009, the actor starred in a small role in Inglourious Basterds. And in 2010, again worked on the voice of Shrek and then left the movie for 8 years. Most likely, he had the opportunity to star in some films in supporting roles, but the actor did not do it. Mike could have gone into production on the 4th installment of Austin Powers and made it with a random script, and that movie would likely have been a box office success. In 2018, he appeared in 2 movies at once. Terminal with Margot Robbie flopped at the box office, as did most of the actress' films. In Bohemian Rhapsody, on the other hand, he was called in as a friend in appreciation of his promotion of the band Queen in the 90s. He happily played his cameo and fell off the radar again. In 2022, he appeared in his own project, The Pentavirat. This mini-series was released on Netflix. It didn't generate much excitement and had rather mediocre reviews. Myers is not like most actors. He doesn't do B movies, and he tries to star in big projects, albeit in the background, or look for roles that suit him. Yet it seems he has not said the final word and has a trump card up his sleeve in the form of the 4th Austin Powers part. Time will tell whether it will come out or not. It won't be long now.